This President Trump today in the Oval Office with the head of NATO, talking about how unhappy he is with Putin and how he's learned to kind of distrust him. Play 8 and 9 back to back, please. 8 and 9.
One of the reasons that you're here today is to hear that we are very unhappy, I am, with Russia. But we'll discuss that maybe a different day. But we're very, very unhappy with them, and we're going to be doing very severe tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. Tariffs at about 100%. You'd call them secondary tariffs. You know what that means. But today we're going to talk about something else. And as you know, we've spent $350 billion approximately on this war with Russia and Ukraine. And would like to see it end. It wasn't my war, it was Biden's war. It's not my war. I'm trying to get you out of it. And we want to see it end. And I'm disappointed in President Putin because I thought we would have had a deal 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to get there. So based on that, we're going to be doing secondary tariffs if we don't have a deal in 50 days. It's very simple. And they'll be at 100%. And that's the way it is. That can be more simple. It's just the way it is. I hope we don't have to do it. I go home, I tell the First Lady, and I spoke to Vladimir today. We had a wonderful conversation. She said, oh, really? Another city was just hit. So it's like, yeah, look.
I want to start, Stephen, with you. And where are you on this question that President Trump today talked about not just sending offensive and defensive weapons via the Europeans to Ukraine, but also talked about putting economic sanctions and tariffs on Russia. Although Senator Thune said, well, just a few minutes ago, they're going to delay voting on the sanctions bill. I thought they'd vote for it and pocket it, but it seems like they may delay it. But where are you on America's role here? Are you happy with the direction things are heading? How do you see it?
Well, the one thing I am happy to see is Trump finally having more of a stance of standing up for America as opposed to Russia and having a more aggressive approach against Putin. So that's a welcome development from Trump. But I really want to give voice to what I'm seeing from both progressive populists and libertarians. Progressive populists like Ro Khanna, libertarians like Justin Amash, who are speaking to how these weapons are being sold to NATO and then they're giving it to Ukraine. So we create this image of the U.S. not directly being involved in a war. We are involved in this war, and this is sidestepping the constitutional process, which is Congress has to authorize any wars that the U.S. is involved in, and this has been going on for too long. So I associate myself with the anti-war side of both the left and the right that I think is skeptical of these sort of endless entanglements.
And here I'm going to be pushed into being in the Matt Gorman cynical side, because here's someone idealistically saying Congress, an ostensible co-equal branch vested with the war powers, should actually be involved here. Matt Gorman and I, we just roll our eyes at that and say, we'd like to sell you the bridge over the 14th Street or the 14th Street Bridge at this point. But thank you for saying that. Really interesting. Matt Gorman, I can't believe we hadn't come up with this scheme before. We sell it to the Europeans. Ukraine gets its weapons. Donald Trump gets money in the bank. This seems brilliant, no, for MAGA?
Yes. I mean, it's a great way to sell it. My first thought was, Mark, it felt like the day after the Iowa caucuses in 2016. And the reason I say that is because if you remember, I forget this a lot, that Trump lost the Iowa caucuses in 2016 to Ted Cruz. But the day after, to switch the narrative, he starts saying Ted Cruz is born in Canada, right?
Yeah.
And this felt very much the way it was portrayed to Russia, a statement on Russia. He knows that the mainstream press can't help themselves when the words Trump and Russia appear in a chyron. And so he knew this would help do a lot to push that Epstein stuff off the front page and off the tops of the cable news packages. So I think that was my first thought on all of this. And he was able to kind of bring this out to the ether in a way that, look, we're leading the show with this.
Yeah.
With conservatives on Epstein.
Yeah. Well,
I agree with that, by the way.
That it's smart and strategic and tactical.
Yes.
Yeah. But also, I mean, the head of NATO was coming already.
Oh yeah.
This is the time when I step in and be less cynical than the both of you. The head of NATO was coming already. This is a good idea as a standalone, regardless of what's going on with Epstein, right? So it seems
1000%.
Seems to me if Epstein weren't happening, he might have done this the exact same way. No?
Possibly. I think especially though the framing on Russia, like, right?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't Ukraine, and also I think that was important for the base.
Yeah.
It wasn't a Ukraine issue; it was a Russia issue.
Yeah. Stephen, do you consider Zelensky to be both competent and not corrupt? Think he's competent and not corrupt, or do you disagree with either of those characterizations?
Well, I think both of those are a high bar for him. I think, you see a lot of stories about potential corruption. It's hard for us to really know what all is fact or fiction on that front. In terms of competence, his Oval Office meeting with President Trump was a total disaster. I mean, most foreign leaders know how to operate with Trump, which is suck up to him as much as possible while standing your ground as much as you can. And so I think he failed on that count. But at the same time, if you look at the Ukraine war started when I was actively running for a U.S. Senate, and so we very much had to put forth our policies on this and evaluate our take on Zelensky at that time. And I think he was doing a pretty strong job at that time, building coalitions, building the case internationally for support. But I think now there's just a sense of where is this going? What's the end game here? And I think that's where populists are getting a little bit exhausted.
Yeah, Matt Gorman, what do you think happens next? Let's assume these things go. Is it possible that it changes facts on the ground?
We'll see. I mean, I think that I don't know.
Yeah.
But right now, it gives NATO more ownership of this thing, right? Which has been, whether it's Ukraine or anything else, I think Trump has really been careful to make sure NATO owns more of the security in Western Europe. So it advances that.
Yep.
It obviously is very much more defensible to the base. So we're not giving them things, we're selling them things. It solves a bunch of political things and also longer term goals for Trump. And I thought it was interesting the Melania piece. Like that was, I thought, interesting too. And he gave a little insight to their relationship. I thought it was interesting.
Yes. I remember once one of the first stories Trump ever told me when I started occasionally meeting with him at Trump Tower was once Tom Cruise asked if he could use Woolman Rink, like before it opened, he wanted to go skating with Woolman Rink. And Trump was like, he said to Melania, incredible, Tom Cruise asked me, called me up and personally asked me. And Melania said, you are bigger than Tom Cruise. I felt that, and that was before he was president. I felt that gave me good insight too, that story. All right. Want more great clips like that? I've got an idea. Hit the subscribe button, be part of the Two-Way community, never miss a clip. And you can always watch our full episodes, join them live, go to twoway.tv.